The book of Ezekiel is one of the major prophetic books of the Old Testament in the Bible. It is named after its author, Ezekiel, who was a prophet and priest living in the city of Jerusalem during the Babylonian captivity. The book is a collection of prophecies, visions, and symbolic actions given by God to Ezekiel, and it is divided into three parts: the call and commission of Ezekiel, prophetic messages to the Israelites, and the ultimate restoration of Israel and God's kingdom. The first section of the book, chapters 1 to 3, describes the call and commission of Ezekiel as a prophet. In 597 BC, during the reign of King Jehoiakim, Ezekiel was among the exiles taken from Jerusalem to Babylon by King Nebuchadnezzar. While living in exile, God appeared to Ezekiel in a vision of a fiery chariot and called him to be a prophet to the rebellious and stubborn house of Israel. God gave Ezekiel a scroll with words of lamentation, mourning, and woe to be delivered to the people of Israel. God also warned Ezekiel that they will not listen to him, but he must still prophesy to them. In the second section, chapters 4-24, Ezekiel delivers messages of judgment and warning to the Israelites for their idolatry, disobedience, and wickedness. In a series of symbolic actions and visions, God reveals to Ezekiel the extent of the people's rebellion and the consequences they will face. These include the destruction of Jerusalem, the temple, and the exile of the people to foreign lands. Through these prophecies, Ezekiel portrays the consequences of the people's sins and the faithfulness of God's judgment. Chapters 25-32 contain prophecies against the nations that have mistreated and oppressed Israel, such as Ammon, Moab, and Edom. Despite their punishment, God assures Israel that he will one day bring them back to their land and judge their oppressors. He also promises to restore and bless Israel and establish them as a great nation. In chapters 33-48, the final section of the book, Ezekiel prophesies about the restoration of Israel and the rebuilding of the temple. God declares that after a period of punishment and exile, he will gather his people from all nations and bring them back to their land. He promises to transform them, purify them, and make them a new people. The temple will also be rebuilt, and God's glory will once again reside in the midst of his people. This section is filled with future promises of hope and restoration, emphasizing God's faithfulness to his covenant with Israel. Ezekiel also has several notable visions, including the vision of the Valley of Dry Bones, where God breathes life into the dry bones representing the restoration of Israel. In another vision, Ezekiel sees a restored temple with the glory of God filling the structure. These visions serve to remind the Israelites of God's sovereignty and power, and to give them hope for a better future. One of the significant themes of the book of Ezekiel is the holiness of God. Throughout the book, Ezekiel emphasizes the importance of following God's laws and commandments and turning away from idolatry. He shows how God's holiness cannot coexist with the sin and disobedience of his people, and that he will not tolerate their rebellion forever. However, despite the punishment and judgment, God's ultimate desire is for his people to turn away from their sins and return to him. Another important theme in the book is the role of the prophet and his responsibility to deliver God's message to the people, regardless of how they are received. Ezekiel's symbolic actions, such as lying on his side for 390 days, demonstrate the lengths to which a prophet must go to grab the attention of the rebellious people, and how even their resistance cannot hinder God's will. The book of Ezekiel also foreshadows the coming of Jesus Christ and the establishment of God's kingdom. The promise of a restored Jerusalem and a new temple speaks of a future where God's people will live with him in a perfect and holy relationship. This theme is particularly evident in Ezekiel's vision of the river of life, where he sees water flowing from the restored temple, bringing life and healing to the land and its people. In conclusion, the book of Ezekiel is a powerful prophetic book filled with messages of judgment, warning, and hope. It serves as a reminder of God's holiness and his faithfulness to his covenant with Israel. It also points to the coming of Jesus and the promise of a new and restored kingdom. This book continues to speak to believers today, urging them to turn away from sin and rebellion and to pursue a life of holiness and obedience to God.